the situation in the West Bank, even if it's, I believe, the first time we do it with a specific angle on the West Bank and settlements. I noted that sometimes we have more unity among the member states on this issue than in this hemicycle, which is perfectly fine and normal for me. Be sure that our work on the two-state solution and all its implications is and stays a top priority for me and for the European institutions. I add, on a personal note, a comment that I remember I did already in this hemicycle in one of our last debates on the Middle East and on Israel-Palestine in particular, which is the fact that sometimes I note with a certain embarrassment that some members of parliament, sometimes the most vocal ones, the ones that ask more convincingly that this issue stays our number one priority, as long as they speak, they are extremely convinced that this is top priority. As soon as they switch off the microphone, they leave the room. And here, again, we're not so many to discuss this. So please, if you really believe that this is number one priority, and you say that the European Union should be consistent, at least spend this 15 minutes to be in the room and show with your acts what you say. Sorry, but this is a matter of personal coherence to me. So I hope that, I'm sure that we will have other occasions to discuss. I hope that next time, at least those that are asking me to do more, at least take the time to stay in the room for the entire debate, which is not doing too much at the end of the day. And I appreciate very much those of you that stayed, obviously. First, we are working very actively with the regional powers, with international players. Some of you referred to the fact that the next US administration might have a different approach to this issue, which will put on our shoulders, and puts on our shoulders already now, a responsibility that is even more important than in the past. And we are fully exercising the responsibility, but with an attitude of working with the parties in Israel and in Palestine, working with the regional powers. Sometimes, here again, we are putting to this issue more attention than some of the regional powers are in this moment, distracted by other crises. Sometimes, I tell you very openly, I feel that we are, as Europeans, the ones that are more convincingly working on this constantly. This is always and constantly on our agenda, both in the Council and here in the Parliament. Sometimes I realise this is not anymore always the case for other partners around the world. So this is why I put so much an accent on the need for us to build, preserve, nourish the regional and international unity on this, because the European Union is a key player here for working with Israel, for working with Palestine. But it will not be something we will manage to do if alone. We will need, especially, I say, the Arab countries, especially around the Arab Peace Initiative, especially the Arab League. This is why I will be glad that this is going to be one of the issues we'll discuss at our EU-Arab League Ministerial in December. We need to build the common vision and the common action in the region and international community. There is a lot that you can do. I appreciate and I took note of all the suggestions on what I can do on my side, both on the Commission side, on the Council side. But let me stress the fact that you, as members of Parliament, do have a role and a power if you play it, because also the European Parliament is part of the European Union and its institutions. And I appreciate in particular what Madam Senalova mentioned about the meeting with the Knesset members. Your parliamentary contacts with the Knesset are particularly important to pass a message, to work on creating the space for political decisions to be taken on the Israeli side. The same can go on the Palestinian side. For instance, an issue that to me is particularly important, so much that I focused most of my introductory remarks on this, and I noticed some of you have also underlined the decisions that the Knesset is taking in these moments, in these weeks, with a preliminary indication that was passed already, but still the decision to be finalised, this is the time for members of the European Parliament to liaise, to reach out to members of Knesset and pass your own vision of what is happening. Establish contacts on a constructive and open, frank working relation. Parliamentary diplomacy can help and complement a lot the work we can do on our level. So please, this is an encouragement for those of you that are already doing that, and also a plea to also think of what you can yourself do. And we would be more than glad to coordinate and work together, as we often do in this respect. Because, again, there are key moments. I believe this is one of those, where the decision-making process is still open but decisive, and messages can be heard. I would like to make one last point. It was not raised in the debate tonight, but I am convinced that it is a key element today more than in the past that we focus our action especially in supporting the conditions for peace in the respective societies in Israel and Palestine. Particularly investing in the peace camps on both sides is something that is becoming quite urgent, because the old generation, that one that was living the Oslo times, is the old generation. The young generation has grown up with the despair of seeing Oslo not implemented. And I believe that a specific work the European Union could do fruitfully in a very positive manner is to invest in younger generations, both on the Israeli and the Palestinian side, to work for constituencies for peace on both sides, because at the end of the day we will need to have that basis if we want also to create conditions for that. I thank you very much for all your contributions, an exchange that I always enjoy hearing, and I'm sure that we will go back to this debate soon. Again, work on my side personally continues. I invite you also to take some steps on parliamentary diplomacy, especially in these days where decision-making in the Knesset, especially for settlement legislation, is open, and you can, I think, effectively contribute to our work in these weeks. Thank you very much.
A záró gondolat után a vitát lezártnak tekintem. Tájékoztatom önöket, hogy az állásfoglalásról szóló szavazásra egy későbbi plenáris ülésen fog majd sor kerülni. Ezzel rá is térünk a következő napirendi pontra. Paşcu képviselőtársam jelentése a közös biztonság és védelempolitika végrehajtása tárgyába készül.